What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Tonight, man, we got a really fun live stream for you guys. So hopefully you guys are all excited. Taking inspiration from the fantasy footballers, they have a mock draft mayhem that they've done, and I thought it looked super fun. And so I went out, I asked my boy Caleb, I said, hey, you want to do this with me? You want to cause some mayhem? And he said, of course he did. So we're going to be doing that for you guys today. We have a bunch of computer picks in here, but we're doing that because we want to be able to talk about our picks, kind of talk about how we are building our team. And then, of course, spend some time making some mayhem. You can't do that in a draft with other people. So let's get Caleb in here first and foremost, and let's talk some Dynasty fantasy football, guys. Caleb, how you doing, man?
Hey, doing good. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate having you on the show, and we're excited to create some mayhem. I'm excited to do something a little bit different than your typical just Dynasty startup mock draft.
Yeah, so a lot of people, know the normal mock drafts, but let me explain the mayhem, because what Caleb and I got today is a 12-team, one quarterback. It's a little different than our normal stuff because I'm usually super flex. So we're going one quarterback, PPR, tight end premium, and each of us gets 3 power-ups. Now, we're only drafting 12 rounds for the sake of time, but that means that you and I will each get to use one of these power-ups once each. And the power-ups go as such. The first power-up you can use is going to be a pick veto. So whoever your opponent picks, you can't pick them. You have to go pick somebody else. Then we have your opponent pick, which is basically I will make a pick or you will make a pick, and then hit the buzzer, and all of a sudden you get to make my selection or I get to make yours. And then the last power-up we have is a position swap, where if you drafted a running back, Caleb, I might say, hey, you can't get a running back here. You have to go draft something else. And then you have to, make a switch there. So that is kind of the power-ups. That is the mayhem that is going to be caused today. The thing is, we don't know when it's coming. It's just going to be activated whenever we decide we want to do it. But I say, let's not spend too much more time breaking down the video. You guys will get it when we get up there. But let's pull this screen up here and let's start drafting, man.
Let's do it.
So you are going to be drafting from the 7 slot. I'm going to be drafting from the number 3 slot. And like I said, 1 QB, but let's hit the start button on this. Caleb, where can these people find you?
Yeah, they can find me on YouTube at Caleb Niemi, my channel, and also on Twitter at Niemi Caleb, because someone, of course, took my first name on Twitter. So that's typical. But that's where I'm found.
There you go. And you see, I might have took number 3 strategically because of course, 1 QB, we have Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson come off the board. And the thumbnail, it's going to tell you what I want to do, Caleb. And assuming that you are going to allow me to do it, I'm going to be taking B.
I will. I'll let you take Bijan.
Okay. All right. So no mayhem yet. And then Christian McCaffrey, Breece Hall, and Josh Allen come off the board. You're on the clock, Caleb.
Oh, Josh Allen in a 1 QB going off in the first round. Crazy. Oh man, which way do I want to go? We're going wide receiver here of course. I do like the 3 guys, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, and Garrett Wilson. But I'm gonna be clicking CeeDee Lamb at the 1-7. I should have asked if you were gonna let me, but I guess
yeah. No, it's all fine. I'm gonna let you. We see Mr. Bowtie in here. One of the newest members of the Discord. So appreciate you, Mr. Bowtie, for joining the Discord. He says the LSU connection right off the bat, 1 and 2. And it kind of segued. So you can thank Mr. Bowtie for this one. But if you guys haven't joined the Discord, you guys need to join the Discord, because what we're doing in there is we are giving away a free signed NFL jersey mystery box. So go join the Discord and enter to win that jersey. So let me see if I can get this off there we go. It's right after your pick. We had Jonathan Taylor, AJ Brown, Pat Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. So 3 quarterbacks in the first round. And now this is a dynasty. So, I understand wanting to get one of those quarterbacks. But then Garrett Wilson, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, Austin Eckler, Jalen Waddle, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So you were back up on the clock. You took CeeDee Lamb with the first pick. What are you thinking here?
There's some good. I mean, there's some good solid wide receivers, but for me, when I'm looking at the board, I'm staring my eyes on one running back. He's a rookie. He's in my top 5 dynasty running backs, and if I'm going to be starting off at the 1-7, I like a good young running back. So I would be taking Jahmyr Gibbs here if you would allow it, and if not, feel free to deploy one of the power ups.
I think I'm still going to be nice to you. I'll let you take Jahmyr Gibbs, and I will say he is in my top 5 dynasty running backs as well. And Josh Jacobs, Travis Kelce, and Saquon come off the board. Now I am up, and see, this is the thing too. We are in a dynasty league, and there's a guy here that I have got some heat on in one of my recent videos for being too high on this guy. And apparently I'm too high. And assuming you will allow me to do it, I'm going to be drafting Chris Olave.
Position swap.
Position swap. All right. Oh, man, hold on. We don't need it looped. Man, position swap. Okay. So I got to go running back. I mean, it only makes sense to go running back at this point, I guess. Man, actually, you know what? It is a tight end premium, Caleb. I'm gonna go Mark Andrews.
Okay. I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
So Najee Harris, Joe Burrow, Stephon Diggs, and T. Higgins come off the board. And what do you know? The guy that I wanted is still there. So assuming you don't use another power up, Caleb, I will be taking Chris Olave.
Fate fell in this draft, so you are allowed to draft Chris Olave.
Okay, I will draft Chris Olave, Devontae Smith, Nick Chubb, Ramondre Stevenson. So you have CeeDee Lamb and Jahmyr Gibbs. What are you thinking now?
Yeah, we are. So we've kind of built a very young team. There's some very interesting young wide receivers on the board that I do like. Running backs are kind of off my window, but this is just a homer pick, and I know a lot of people are probably going to say, Caleb, this is way too early, but I just know he's not going to make it back to me. But I was going to go Kyle Pitts, but I think I'm switching what I'm saying because I see my strategy now evolving in front of my eyes, and I'm going to take JSN here at the 3-7 if you would allow it. But I guess I just clicked it, and if you want to undo it, you're allowed to.
No, I'll let you take JSN. That's fine. Justin Herbert, Kenneth Walker, Tony Pollard, Travis Etienne, Devontae Adams, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, DK Metcalf, TJ Hawkinson, and Deebo Samuel. So you are back up. And yeah, go ahead and make your pick, Caleb.
You know what? I should probably just say who I'm going to pick before, so you have the chance to do a power up. If I knew how to do this correctly, but I was hoping Kyle Pitts or TJ Hawkinson was going to fall to me, and that did not happen. So we're on the board here. Like we said, we're not going tight end, so we're looking at running back and or wide receiver. There are some quarterbacks we do like. This is a rough part of the draft. I'll be honest here, Andrew. This is rough. I've just pigeonholed my team into being young, and this is what having draft flexibility is very important. So I'm leaning on taking another wide receiver, another young wide receiver. And if you would allow it, I will take Jordan Addison, but feel free to use one of your powers.
So I think what I'm going to be using for you right here is I think I'll select somebody for your team.
Oh,
and I know you said you were looking at tight end, so I think it's only right we draft you a tight end right here. And I know you also mentioned that you liked keeping your team a little bit young. So I think right here you should probably draft Dalton Kincaid.
Dalton Kincaid. You know, I feel like it's a little early, Andrew, but I will gladly accept Dalton Kincaid onto my team. I think in a year or two, we could be talking about Dalton Kincaid in the top 5 tight ends of Dynasty. I mean, right now I know he's in the top 10. He's going to perform terrible for my team. So we are right now, we are shooting for Marvin Harrison Jr. 101 in the rookie draft next season.
Well, I just did what you said. You said were looking at tight end, and you said you like to keep it young. So I figured Dalton Kincaid fit the criteria.
Well, he does. We'll add him there on the team.
All right. So Dameon Pierce comes off the board, Lamar Jackson, and then Trevor Lawrence to round that out. So, oh man, I am going to be honest with you. We are. It is one QB, and I'm gonna dig myself into a hole here because you still have power ups, but there's very few quarterbacks that I really really love on the board. So assuming that you allow me to do this, Caleb, I will be taking Justin Fields.
Nah, you know what? I think we're gonna use the opponent picks power up here, Andrew. I'm sadly needing a quarterback, and I need someone to fall to me. So we're not gonna have that happen for you. We're looking at your team right now, and I'm a someone that I like to be a good guy. I like to be a friend. But you're not gonna be able to take a quarterback. You're gonna have to wait another round. So we're looking right now. There are some really quality running backs like a Derrick Henry that would just absolutely smash for you in this win now build. He would be absolutely dust for you in about a year or two, so you wouldn't be able to get anything back. But as a friend, I'm looking at Quentin Johnston, and I think that's a great pick for you just because it adds another young wide receiver to your wide receiver room, and it keeps you from drafting a quarterback that could potentially fall to me in the next round.
Yeah, I mean, sure, Quentin Johnston it is, and he'll be just fine as my flex wide receiver maybe this year. And then, of course, Justin Fields comes off the board right after, and then Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift, and Javonte Williams. So I am back on the clock, and yeah, man. Yeah, well, what is going to happen here?
Just be happy I didn't make you get Derrick Henry. That's that would have been like the douche move, you know?
Fair enough. I mean, I think now that my guy is off the board, I'll have to go with my second guy on the board. And I might catch some flack for this in the Dynasty community, especially because I know a lot of people are really high on Anthony Richardson. And sure, he's the ceiling shot if you wanted to take the shot at, the highest ceiling here. But I think Anthony Richardson's floor is a little too low for me to bank in this one QB draft. I do think Deshaun Watson has a fairly high ceiling as well. So, assuming you allow me to draft Deshaun, I will be drafting Deshaun Watson, Caleb.
I was hoping you were going to go in a different direction, but I will gladly let you take Deshaun Watson. It gives me a reason to talk about him too. Pervy Watson, as some of us like to refer to him in the Dynasty community. I am someone that believes that, especially in Superflex, but even more in one quarterback, Deshaun Watson has like top 5 upside. He had top 5 upside before he decided to mess around in the massage, dealing with all that. We don't like to see that, but we also play Dynasty. And at the end of the day, if he's scoring me fantasy points, I can forgive him at some point. That happened with Big Ben. A lot of people forgave Big Ben. People forgave Michael Vick after he won them fantasy football championships. I will forgive Deshaun Watson after he wins me a chip.
Okay. And then you see, I do actually agree with you that his ceiling is probably top 5. I'm not. I wouldn't say that the range of outcomes for top 5 is very high, but I think it's there. But he's just outside of that tier for me, man. I think he's going to round out my top 10 dynasty quarterbacks pretty much every single time. And yeah, I mean, we were just getting down to the end there. I really wish I would have had Justin Fields instead of Watson because almost guarantee I could have got Quentin Johnston at this pick if I so chose. But you see Jerry Jeudy and Terry McLaurin come off the board, followed by Christian Watson. And now you are on the board. And let me remind the folks here, I've only used one of my power-ups. You've used 2 at this point. We still have 7 rounds.
We do. And it really didn't work out for me because I was really hoping Justin Fields or Deshaun Watson was going to fall to me. I should have just known that it wasn't going to happen. So right here, my team is just absolutely young. We're looking. There's some quality wide receivers. Like I do love me some DJ Moore. Do love me some Calvin Ridley this year, especially if you have a competing roster. I actually just traded for both of them this week. Andrew would know because I was texting him about it. But the one player that is staring me down to continue to add to this absolute rookie hype train show is Jordan Addison. So that's who I would take here. To continue building this rebuilding. We're going for Marvin Harrison Jr. team, but let me know if you're going to use one of your power-ups.
I'll allow you to take Jordan. And then J.K. Dobbins, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, DJ Moore, George Kittle, Miles Sanders, George Pickens, Calvin Ridley, Cam Akers, and Zay Flowers come off the board. So you are back up.
And this is kind of what I was hoping was going to happen. There's, of course, some quarterbacks that I'm still liking on the board. So at this point, I know one of them is going to make it back to me at my next pick. So when we're looking at probably taking another running back here. but we're absolutely in the RB dead zone. So I don't necessarily love any quarterback. But if we're also playing one QB, and I kind of have every position taken besides running back and quarterback. So right here, if you will allow it, I will take Rachaad White. I think he has potential to be a top 10 running back this year. We don't know past that, but he could be some trade bait for me at the deadline as I continue in my pursuit of Marvin Harrison Jr.
I'm gonna make you. I'm not gonna let you pick that. I'm gonna make you just pick somebody else. I'm not gonna make you switch positions, but just pick someone else.
Ooh, okay. Well, since you're making me do it, I guess. Oh gosh, I guess I will. Yikes! I don't love any of the. Well, we're gonna take Anthony Richardson. We'll take Anthony Richardson. We'll cement. We'll just continue on this absolute rookie hype train. I think Anthony Richardson, like underdog right now, he's going as like the QB8. So if he were to have a top 10 finish in his first rookie season, I mean, in Dynasty, he's going to absolutely go bonkers. He'll be a top 4, top 5 quarterback when we're talking about it next offseason. So I'll take the risk. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work out.
Okay. Well, as we have come down across, keep in mind, I'm just looking for the most value at this point, which to me is probably going to be. Oh man, I'm more than comfortable taking a guy like, assuming you allow this, Caleb. I'm gonna take Amari Cooper to stack with Deshaun Watson.
I have to allow it at this point. I'm down on my power ups.
Oh, are you all out?
No, I
No,
got
you're
one
not all
more. I
out.
got one more, but we got to keep that hidden in the chamber
Okay,
for a
yeah,
second. You know?
keep it
One
keep it
shot in the
close.
chamber. You know.
There you go. Brandon Ayuk off the board, Dallas Goedert, Treylon Burks, and Isaiah Pacheco. They all come off the board. And now I'm kind of looking at this too. I wish that Brandon Ayuk came back around. That's kind of who I was debating between him and Cooper on that one. But because I had Deshaun Watson, I wanted to stack him with Cooper. And I think Cooper has top 12 upside this year. I think what I'm going to do here is I want to take Hollywood Brown. You'll allow it?
I will allow it.
Okay. I think Hollywood Brown, I just think he has a really good chance at finishing in the top 20. And I know Kyler Murray's not playing, guys, but you got to look at what Hollywood Brown was doing when DeAndre Hopkins wasn't playing football last year. He was on pace for so many targets, guys. Like he was just a target hog, looked really good for fantasy football. He was a top 10 wide receiver, if you don't remember, through the top 6 weeks. So I think Hollywood Brown, and he's still young. I mean, he's really not old at all. You can build around him for multiple years in the future. And assuming Kyler Murray stays there, he looks as if he's going to be the number 1 wide receiver there for the next couple of years. Now, Rachaad White, unfortunately, gets drafted right after that. So that's who you were looking at before. And then followed by Dalvin Cook and Jameson Williams. So what are you thinking of doing here, Caleb?
Yeah, so it was an absolute stab in the heart for White and JMO to go off the board. Those were my 2 directions I was leaning. So now we're looking at the team. We're saying we're absolutely young. So there's no reason to take anyone like a D-Hop, Christian Kirk, or a Mike Evans. Running backs, it's pretty much a bunch of old guys that if you have a more win now type team where it could help you, and it's not going to help me because my team at this point really sucks. So we are going to lean Jahan Dotson if that is allowed.
I'll allow it.
Thank you, kind sir.
Yep, we both only have 1 bullet in the chamber.
We're holding it.
So Christian Kirk off the board, Tua Tagovailoa, Alvin Kamara, Alexander Madison, Devon Achane, Dak Prescott, DeAndre Hopkins, new wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans, Pat Freiermuth, James Cook, and Zach Charbonnet. And as we just touched on it, Caleb, everybody I feel like went to give their instant reaction on DeAndre Hopkins landing in Tennessee yesterday as soon as the news hit. I'm curious to know, what is your thoughts on DeAndre Hopkins?
I think DeAndre, a lot of people are overreacting. I mean, every fantasy analyst, they love to give whatever type of opinion they have at any time, which is what we like to do. But I feel like a lot of people were a lot more negative about it than what I thought. Granted, yes, it wasn't Kansas City, it wasn't the Buffalo Bills, but I still feel like, especially when we're talking underdog drafts or we're talking, even dynasty leagues, I know the man is 31, so he's like that cliff is coming. He's only getting the ball thrown to him by Brian Tannehill, but I think this just makes the offense so much better. The Titans needed this for Derrick Henry's sake, for Treylon Burks' sake. So I think the only person it hurts the most is probably Chig. People forgot that last year after Kyler got injured, I mean, we had Colt McCoy out there slinging the ball, trying to get it to DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm really cool with Ryan Tannehill. I think he's really underrated, and especially if you can get him late in any type of super flex league or even one quarterback as a backup, I think Ryan Tannehill has sneaky upside this season.
Yeah, I mean, I went and created a short right away, and I made sure that I let my subscribers know the news, hopefully before they heard it anywhere else. And then, obviously, I went to Twitter after that and tweeted a little bit about my thoughts. I'm not sure if you saw them, but I did say that this is likely going to cause, and this is moments after the signing. I said this is likely going to cause a dip in Treylon Burks' value, but considering how or debating on how much that dip is, I'm buying. I'm buying
Oh,
the
he's a
dip on
buy.
Treylon Burks. And
Mhm.
so I think before, a lot of what I really liked about Treylon Burks was the opportunity that he had in front of him. I mean, it looked like Treylon was going to fall into 150 targets this year. I think the reality is that's not what's going to happen anymore. So the ceiling of Treylon Burks probably comes down a little bit for 2023, and probably 2024 too. I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't be super confident in saying that for 2024 either, but I think at the end of the day, man, he's a buy. He's who they drafted to be a key contributor in this wide receiver room. And even if DeAndre Hopkins is there, he's still going to get the football. And I think one thing that's kind of being overlooked, I know you said you like Ryan Tannehill, but if they make a quarterback switch and you get it to a guy like Will Levis, that guy's a gunslinger, man. Like, he throws the football around. Now, whether it's super accurate or it's going to be a quarterback upgrade or whatever, that's still to be seen. But he slings the ball around, and it may be there may be a big enough pie for them to split that. But like you said, Chig, I'm not in. I was never in on Chig, but I'm not in now.
I think he's. I think in the right circumstance, you can still say, "Hey, DeAndre Hopkins. It's probably what this year and next year is probably going to be dust." So you have the argument to be made that if you buy Chig now, it's kind of like that, like the year before Johnny Smith broke out on the Titans. But we
Yeah.
saw how that turned out. You really only got 1 year of decent, like tight end, high and tight end two numbers. So yeah, I'm probably out on Chig at this point, especially in tight end premium. But
Yeah. Well, what are you going to do with your draft pick here? Because you do have 1 minute left on the clock.
we've been thinking about it. We're looking at our team. We're like, the CPU stabs us in the heart every time. We were hoping Zach Charbonnet fell back to us. That didn't happen. Got sniped the pick before me. So we're looking at Deontay Johnson here. And the reason I'm looking at Deontay, I mean, dude gets 140, 150 targets every single season. He is older. He's more of a contending asset, but the fact is he's 26 years old. So I think even this year, he's still's got about 2 or 3 years left of his prime. So for a team like me who is going to be absolutely sucking, if he breaks out this year, I think this is great value to get him in the 8th round.
Yeah, and you're going Deontay, huh?
Well, if that's allowed.
Yeah, I'll let it happen.
Thank you.
All right. And James Conner comes off the board, and Mike Evans and Dave Montgomery. And that's unfortunate because I wanted James Conner. But as we're sitting here looking at this team, there's really no holes right now. And I want to reiterate, when I say that, you shouldn't be drafting to fill a starting lineup in your startups, but it's good to keep track of what you got at certain positions so you know where to grab players, especially because you and I know, Caleb, as you go through these drafts, there's going to be rounds where it's stronger at a certain position. So you want to make sure that you're getting the most value out of your picks. But if I am looking at this correctly, I just don't feel like there's a lot of value at the running back position here. And so I will not be drafting a running back. But what I will be doing is I will be drafting Mike Williams from the Chargers. If you will, actually, no, I'm not going to be doing that because I forgot you put Quentin Johnston on my team. Man, I caught myself on that one.
That was a close one.
That was a close one. Man, there's nobody else that I like. So I guess what I'm going to do here is as much as let's get this out of the way because I see this in the chat, guys. They say Kadarius Toney, Elijah Moore here, upside, and full disclosure, guys, I have not been in this Kadarius Toney fan club. In fact, I've been at the door turning people away, trying to turn people away from the Kadarius Toney fan club. I just really, I really don't like Kadarius Toney. But that being said, I do understand the range of outcomes for Kadarius Toney, and if he hits, the ceiling is going to be a lot higher than a lot of the guys on the board right here. Mike Williams is the best player on the board to me right now. He has the same ceiling, I think, as Kadarius Toney, but I don't want to get two guys from the same team, so I am going to be going Kadarius Toney, Caleb, assuming you allow it.
Yeah, I'll allow it. I'm not a Kadarius Toney believer, but shout out to Mr. Bowtie in the chat. He honestly he's been trying to draft my whole team. I don't think he's like the pick I took. So shout out to you, Mr. Bowtie. I appreciate you being here. But he's clearly on the Kadarius Toney train. I'm not on the Kadarius Toney train. Sadly, I am riding the Sky Moore train. I actually just sold my last share, but I think the upside's there that I prefer the Sky Moore price over the Kadarius Toney price.
I am definitely in on the Sky Moore side more than Toney as well. And when you look at compensation wise too, like what they gave up to get Kadarius Toney and then what they gave up to get Sky Moore, they gave up more to get Sky Moore. I mean, they didn't give up a lot of compensation to go get Kadarius Toney. Yes, guys, I understand. Kadarius Toney is electric in the open field. He can stop on a dime. He can make people miss. That is Kadarius Toney's bread and butter. I just don't think Kadarius Toney is that good of a route runner. Like, I understand you can design types of plays for Kadarius Toney to get the ball, but he feels so much more gadgety wide receiver than he actually feels like a good wide receiver. And when I say a good wide receiver, I mean like a good route runner that has high success rates when they're separating. And that's who I like to roster in fantasy football. If you're not familiar, I've pumped him up 100 times on the show, guys. Big advocate. Matt Harmon, he does reception perception, and it shows success in route trees. I like those guys, man. I like the guys that separate and get the ball or get open, because when you get open, you get the ball. That's what I like. So Kadarius Toney isn't one of those guys, but I see the upside, and I think that Andy Reid is a creative enough head coach and play caller that they're going to get Kadarius Toney the ball. Hopefully he just stops calling people out on Twitter and doing stupid stuff off the field. But I guess I don't have a choice here, Caleb. I didn't want to double two on the same team, but I want to go Mike Williams.
I'll allow. I think Mike Williams is going to be dust, so he can die on your team, Andrew.
Well, good thing I have Quentin Johnston. So if he does, then I can replace him with Quentin Johnston.
Right now, you need to be calling up what team has Justin Herbert. You need to be calling them up to see if there's a potential deal. Team 8 needs to call up, see if you can flip Watson in a piece for Herbert to get the ultimate stack.
Yeah, I'll take Amon-Ra St. Brown if they'll allow it.
Yeah.
All right. So what are you thinking here?
So my team, we have absolutely young. We're, like I said, we're thinking about the future. We're thinking about our high future first. But we've gone absolutely hero RB to this point with Jahmyr Gibbs as our only running back. So we're staring down one guy that I think has been really disrespected in the Dynasty community, in the fantasy football community, and that's Antonio Gibson. I know Brian Robinson's there. I know they just drafted Rodriguez in the 6th round, Chris Rodriguez. So a lot of people are saying Antonio Gibson, I mean, where's the value? For me, dude's always been a top 25 running back the last 3 seasons. But even more than that, add in Eric Bieniemy. I'm not saying Antonio Gibson's going to be a bell cow. All I'm going to say is if they can use him like they use J.D. McKissick in that 3rd down pass catcher role with Sam Howell this year, I could easily see Antonio Gibson getting somewhere around 60 to 70 receptions. And if he pops off for something like that, I'll either be able to trade him midseason and or he'll be a little bit more valuable next season. So I do like me some Antonio Gibson, if you will.
So all I have left is you need to pick a different position. So keep going with that hero RB.
Oh, goodness gracious. So we're looking at our team. We got pretty much every position under the sun. We do like some Evan Ingram, especially in a tight end premium league with that contract extension. So we're looking at Evan Ingram. But when we're looking at wide receiver too, we got Elijah Moore staring me straight down the eyes. And And like I said, I'm heavy. I think we can get a tight end I like coming back on the back way around. So we're gonna draft Elijah Moore here.
Okay.
I can't
So
let you get that Elijah Moore stack.
yeah, I mean, I have no power ups left anymore, and for what it's worth, I do have Amari Cooper, so I'm not gonna do the Elijah Moore stack. But Mingo, Kyler Murray, Evan Engram, Rashee Rice, David Njoku, Rashad Bateman, Sam Laporta, Tyler Lockett, Brandon Cooks, and CJ Stroud off the board. So it looks like you can make your pick, man.
You know what? It's the fantasy gods were in my favor. We're gonna be taking Antonio Gibson. Everything I said before still applies now, even more at the 10th pick. So we're smashing the draft button on Antonio Gibson.
All right, and I can't do anything to stop it. So Juju comes off the board, Cortland Sutton, Khalil Herbert, and I am now on the clock. And look, man, I'm gonna go Roschon Johnson if you'll allow it.
Nah, you're not allowed to do that. Pick vetoed.
All right, and
that was the one guy on my mind. I said if he picks I know people are in Chicago calling him Rojo, which seems weird because he's not the first Rojo. But I said if he goes that way, I'm, and you did. So I said, let's go.
Okay, so I guess I can still pick a running back, and so I guess that's kind of what I wanted to do here. And with that being said, we are very weak at the running back position. The only running back on my team is Bijan Robinson. And so we're going to have to start addressing this a little bit if I want to plug in a full lineup week 1. And I am going to be going with the other rookie, Tank Bigsby, for Jacksonville. I really do like Tank Bigsby as a prospect. Everything that we've been hearing coming out of camp has been fantastic about Tank Bigsby. Apparently, he's running every type of play out of the backfield. They're sending him outside, inside. He's catching passes out of the backfield. They're using him on goal line formations. Like, man, he's going to be a guy who's going to be involved. And for what it's worth, ETN is very talented, but ETN is a very one-dimensional player. ETN, he's kind of a straight line, one cut and go running back. He has a lot of burst, and outside of that, man, I just think we've seen enough out of Travis Etienne and we've seen enough out of Doug Peterson and the Jacksonville Jaguars historically that they don't just run one guy. Doug Peterson specifically, he likes to run a smorgasbord of running backs, and Tank Bigsby is the newest addition to this. I think he's going to have a pretty healthy role coming in the first year. I really wouldn't be surprised if, mid-season it's a 60-40 split. I really wouldn't. What you were seeing at the beginning of the season with J-Rob and ETN, I think they're going to try and recreate that now with Tank Bigsby. The only difference is Tank Bigsby has a little bit more gas than a guy like J-Rob after that injury.
No, I totally agree with you. And I think actually to this point, which I don't have any more power up, so you're allowed to draft Tank Bigsby. I think Tank Bigsby, honestly, for you over Rojo, which you might actually be able to get both of these guys back to back. But I think Tank Bigsby honestly probably outperforms Rojo this season in fantasy. So getting him as your RB2 probably doesn't feel great starting him every week because you're probably looking at like touchdown reception upside only with Tank Bigsby. But I do like that pick for you if you couldn't draft Rojo.
Yeah, the only difference that separates these guys and the reason why, and full disclosure, Tank Bigsby, I had his tape score higher than I had Rojo's, but Roschon, he just landed in a situation where the pathway is so clear. It's just so clear for him to be the number one running back if he is talented enough. I mean, he only has to beat out Khalil Herbert. The thing is, Tank Bigsby is never going to supplant and totally eliminate Travis Etienne from playing football. That's just not going to happen. I think Roschon can do that to Khalil Herbert. But like you said, I like Tank Bigsby a lot, so I will be drafting Tank Bigsby here. And you don't have any more power-ups. So
no, you're controlling it this whole way.
I'm just going to do it. And shout out the Devi Royale. They're in here pumping up Tank Bigsby, so saying it's Big B or Bigsby season. So shout out the Devi Royale, guys.
Shout out Kevin. Dude's a legend.
Shout out Kevin. All right, so Roschon unfortunately comes off the board, and I can't go Roschon. So now I'm going to be looking at the next guy that I want.
You get anybody you want. This is the world is your oyster here.
Yeah, it might be a little high, But I feel like I have some veteran wide receivers here. I have Amari Cooper, Hollywood Brown, Mike Williams, Kadarius Toney, and I know Tony's a little bit younger, but at the end of the day, these guys have been around for a while. I need some. I want another young wide receiver, and so I am going to be drafting Sky Moore out of Kansas City right now.
Oh, man, he's got the stack. He's got all the Kansas City wide receivers at this point.
So one of them has to hit now, right?
You would hope. You would hope.
And we have it over here too. Now we have both sides of the argument. Brandon is saying Bigsby's a bum.
Brandon, come on, man. Come on, boy. We were just hyping him up. You didn't have to come in and throw water on our firestorm. You know, like it's just like. But Brandon, if you like I said, if you haven't subscribed already over here on the League FFB, bro, subscribe. It's a good channel. We'll get you right. We'll get you right.
There you go. So Sky Moore comes off the board for me again. We're just going Kansas City wide receivers here. Somebody will trade me for Kadarius Toney. I know they'll trade me after the draft, and I'll get a value pick there. So Dalton Schultz comes off the board, Tyler Algier, Jamal Williams, and now you are on the clock. There's no power-ups left, so the world is your oyster.
Yeah, we're looking here, and Brandon's over here popping off in the chat on the Tank.
AJ Dillon wannabe, huh?
What? He's not even like, he doesn't even have like quads like AJ Dillon, so I don't get that comparison. But I also understand like backup running back wise. So if you guys, I'm sure no one on this channel has ever watched any of my videos, but if you ever come over to my channel, about once a week, I find a way to fit this man into a video, and it's Greg Dulcich. Like Lily, talk about anything. Like we're talking upside, we're talking sleeper. It's literally like all those terms apply to Greg Dulcich. And the reason I love me some Greg Dulcich so much is just because if you look at every metric of his rookie season, we're talking about elite level tight end fantasy producers. We're talking about Vernon Davis. We're talking about Kyle Pitts. We're talking about Rob Gronkowski. We're talking about George Kittle. Those are the type. I could pull up like 3 different tweets that just mostly from the Dynasty I am, who have
it's like the same tweets you keep throwing up to 20.
These. And I literally post the same tweet on every video because I'm like, listen, guys, we got to be drafting Greg Dulcich. And the fact that we're here and he's my backup tight end. I don't even know what tight end number we're off at this point, but like if you get him anywhere after tight end 12, it's just an absolute steal. So, Brandon, you know what? At least Brandon agrees with something that I said tonight. So shout out to you, my man. Appreciate you being here. But I will be taking Greg Dulcich. You don't have any more power ups, do you? So I guess
nope.
This is
free
and clear for me to snag some. I call him 3-legged Greg because apparently there was another Twitter that said the man is just absolutely loaded in the chamber as well. So
what the hell? What is going on here? We're off the rails.
So this is why I gave him that nickname.
Okay, so Jalen Hyatt comes off the board. Tajay Spears, Michael Thomas, Jaden Reed, Rashad Penny, Darnell Mooney, Elijah Mitchell, Daniel Jones, Damian Harris, and then Chig Okonkwo. So final pick here. There's no power-ups. You and I, whoever we decide to take with these picks, we get them. So who are you going here? And let's just summarize the roster real fast before you make this final pick.
Yeah, we're looking at a very young, incompetent, high upside team where we did really well. I honestly think I had a really good draft here. Where we have a young core. I mean, we essentially just did a rookie draft, and I had all the picks. Where we went with Anthony Richardson as our quarterback. We got Jahmyr Gibbs in the second. CeeDee Lamb as our young wide receiver stud. Jackson Smith-Njigba, who I think has right now, I think on like Dynasty rankings, a lot of people have him like wide receiver 14 to wide receiver 15. I think by the end of this year, we're talking about JSN as like a wide receiver 8, wide receiver 7. Actually, wouldn't even be surprised if we're talking him in the top 5, honestly. But that's a little rich for some people. Dalton Kincaid as this top 10 tight end, but he won't probably do anything this year. Dawson Knox, I still think, is going to outperform him this season. Jordan Addison as the clear wide receiver 2 in this class. There has been like reports that he's like kind of injured right now, which isn't great, but also great if I'm trying to tank. So shout out to Jordan Addison for pulling a hammy for me. We have Jahan Dotson, Deontay Johnson, some extra wide receiver depth. I like all those guys. And then, Greg 3-legged Dulcich rounding it out on a roster.
All right. And I will back you on that statement of the JSN. I've been on record on this show, on this channel multiple times this offseason saying that when it's all said and done, whether it's week 1 of next year or week 17 of this year. It could be as early as then, I think. But, after next offseason, I cannot see a situation where we're not talking about Jackson Smith and Jigba in the same breath as we're talking about the Devontae Smiths, the Amon-Ra St. Browns, even as high as like the CeeDee Lambs, man. Like I really think he's that good of a receiver. I think there's a real opportunity here in year one where he's gonna start eating away at Tyler Lockett's snap share. He's going to take away some of the targets. And I think by the end of the year, man, he's going to be the clear cut number 2 in this offense. And I could catch some heat for this as well, but I think there's a real chance too that he pushes DK for that wide receiver 1 role, guys. But that's just how high I am on Jackson Smith and Jigba. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, I can't tell the future. I just do my best to predict it for you guys so you can win your fantasy football championships.
Well, you just won me mine because I'm right in the same boat with you. Where JSN, honestly, there was all that type of talk about JSN, especially like in one quarterback leagues, like the 102. Who do you take, Jahmyr Gibbs or JSN? I think there's a real possibility we look back on this in 2 years and go, yeah, JSN was the clear pick before the draft, and then after the draft, we just let the draft capital of Jahmyr Gibbs persuade us, and mistakes were made.
I got slandered in a few of my drafts this offseason because I was taking both Gibbs and JSN in the top 4, top 3, top 4. And there was a lot of people that I play with that were like, well, it should be all of the quarterbacks because they're super flex leagues. So everybody was like, it should just be Richardson, Bryce, and then so on. Like, and I was like, look, man, if you don't need a quarterback, I understand that they might have the highest value in this rookie draft when it's all said and done, but I think I'm drafting a difference maker in Jackson Smith and Jigba. And if you could look back a year from now and you say, hey, you can have CJ Stroud, who, as much as I like CJ Stroud, I don't think that a top 5 fantasy football quarterback is in the range of outcomes for CJ Stroud. Now, I'm happy to be wrong about it. I just don't think that that's in the range of outcomes. But you could have CJ Stroud, or if JSN turns out to what I think he is, and he's Garrett Wilson, then what are we talking about here? What are we talking about?
Also, shout out to Brandon in the chat. You're continuing to redeem yourself, my man. It started off rough with the Tank Bigsby slander, but you have continued to speak facts, so I appreciate you.
So, except the only fact that he got wrong was the Bryce is a bust statement. I will say he knows this is the Bryce fan club. And actually, let's just I'll let you pick because, yeah, did that auto pick for you?
No. I know it looked like an auto pick, but we are on the Trey Lance fanboy club over here. So if that makes anyone decide to not go check out my YouTube channel or check out my Twitter, I understand completely because of the slander that my man Trey Lance has got. But we're going high upside. We don't know what Anthony Richards is going to be. We don't know what Trey Lance is going to be. But if we're taking 2 slings in the stone, one of them has to turn out to be a top 5 quarterback. So yeah.
Fair enough. So I will summarize where I'm at right now. We have Deshaun Watson as a starting quarterback. The starting running backs are Bijan Robinson and Tank Bigsby, followed with 2 starting wide receivers, Chris Olave, and as much as Caleb wanted it to be Quentin Johnston, I would actually say it's Amari Cooper. And then in my flex, Hollywood Brown with tight end Mark Andrews. So we are now at the last pick of the draft. I also have some Tony and some other stuff. Yeah, whatever. I'm going to trade some of these guys. Caleb threw me off when he started drafting Quentin Johnston and crap. So at the end of the day, we are going to close out this draft with I want to get my backup quarterback, but as I look at this and I say, okay, we got Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Jordan Love, Jared Goff, Geno Smith, and all of those guys are still available and there's only 2 picks in this draft, I'll go use some of my fab. I'll pick one up off the waiver wire at the end of this draft, guys, after I trade Kadarius Toney. And then what I'll be doing is I'll be drafting. It sounds gross, guys. It's going to sound gross.
Oh, it's getting grosser. You're not going Samaje Perine?
It's getting gross, man. Oh, we're going to draft Ezekiel Elliott here because I think that Ezekiel Elliott lands on a team. Actually, as much as I'm talking about this, I want to throw up in my mouth.
I was about to say, I'm throwing up for you.
Yeah, we're not doing this. Screw this. I'm drafting my backup quarterback, Kirk Cousins.
Kirk. You're taking
I try to talk myself out of that, and I'm going Kirk Cousins, man. Screw this.
Okay, honest question though. In Dynasty, we don't. It doesn't even have to be one quarterback or super flex. Are we really taking Kirk Cousins like ahead of Kenny Pickett at this point? I know
Are
Kenny
we?
Pickett. I know Kenny Pickett has the hate, and I know they're like about around the same on pretty much anybody that talks about. They're like in the same tier. But I feel like I lean Kenny Pickett over Kirk Cousins just based on age and what we saw out of Kenny Pickett the last few games.
I think you. I think you can. But at the end of the day, man, I mean, let's just look at what's been going on. In Minnesota, or he was a QB1, QB1, QB6 last year when they switched over to Kevin O'Connell. And oh yeah, they just add Jordan Addison to the roster. I know the attempts were outrageous last year. And keep in mind, I'm saying all of this with some purple and yellow jerseys in the background. But at the end of the day, guys, like Kirk Cousins is going to be a volume quarterback in this offense with Kevin O'Connell, and I really don't think that I just don't think the Vikings are going to move on, man. They had the opportunity to move on this offseason. They had it. Everybody, like every media outlet was talking about how much Will Levis was wowing Kevin O'Connell and yada yada. At the end of the day, he was on the clock, and they picked Jordan Addison and stuck with Kirk Cousins. Um, and I'm not saying that Will Levis is this hell of a quarterback prospect, but at the end of the day, they had the chance. Are the Minnesota Vikings going to be a bad enough football team next year where they're going to be in the Drake May or the Caleb Williams sweepstakes? No, they're not. So we're going to go test free agency, or we're just going to re-sign Kirk Cousins again to another 1 year fully guaranteed contract or a 2 year fully guaranteed contract. Kirk keeps doing this. And I think as long as he's in Minnesota, he's with Kevin O'Connell, he's a top 10 quarterback in single season leagues. Now I understand why you won't have him in your top 10 when it comes to your dynasty rankings because of the age, but he's going to produce, man. He's one of the greatest value picks that you can make in a redraft league this offseason, especially in superflex redraft leagues. You can get him. I mean, we just saw it. I mean, you see how far down he's going. And you tell me a guy down here can get top 10 upside at the position, it's just a no-brainer pick. So that's that's my opinion on Kirk Cousins, and I may say that a little passionately bleeding some purple and yellow, but P. Ryan and Odell come off the board to finish it off. And what are your thoughts here, Caleb?
Well, I will say you just sold me on Kirk Cousins. Plus the fact that if you aren't watching that new Netflix series, it makes you love Kirk Cousins even more as a man, as a father, just as an overall human being. So yeah, maybe I did too. It was amazing. It was amazing. I feel like they focus on Patrick Mahomes too much. Marcus Mariota didn't get as much love, but Kirk Cousins was right there, number 2. So love that for Kirk boy. But yeah, I think this was a great mock. Know we had some fun. Mr. Bowtie, appreciate you you tuning into this whole thing. And I guess Hunter has a question about his team.
Yeah, let's address this question while we have him live on stream. And if you guys have any other questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat real quick. We'll try and answer them before we get out of here. But Hunter says, any tips for my team? I have Josh Allen, Saquon, Pollard, Keenan Allen, Debo, Waller, Dotson, Tyler Bass, Steelers and Dolphins defenses, AJ Dillon, Antonio Gibson, Pickens, JSN, and Dalton Schultz. It's a PPR redraft. So this is a redraft team. Any thoughts on this? Any tips? Anything you would be doing here? First of all, you're a psycho, man. I love it that you are drafting redraft leagues 2 months out from week 1. I love it. It's psycho.
Yeah. So clearly, he probably went Pollard in the first and then Saquon in the second, or maybe I don't know how you got both those values, unless we're talking like a 10-man league, which I don't think it's a 10-man league, but even still, if it is, this is a great team. This is honestly a really good team.
Yeah, it's a good team. I think when it's in a PPR redraft, I mean, I don't feel the need for you to roster 2 defenses right now. If you wanted to pick up an extra guy on the waiver wire, I wouldn't say that you need to roster 2 defenses because in these redraft leagues, you're going to be able to pick and pick these defenses up off the waiver wire all the time. And he says, yes, it is a 10-man. So I think right now, one thing that I would do if I was you, Hunter, is drop one of those defenses and potentially, I would just drop one of the defenses and I would go target any handcuff running backs that are on the waiver wire, because we know as training camps and preseason starts, there's going to be a running back injury. We don't know who it is or when it's going to come. There's going to be one. And that's just the nature of the position. And you want to potentially be holding that handcuff running back, because if that guy gets injured and then you get, let's say, heaven forbid it's Christian McCaffrey. If you have Elijah Mitchell, all of a sudden now you're rostering a running back one, probably on your redraft rosters, and you just got that for free, and it cost you a defense that you can pick up in a couple weeks when you need to stream it on the bye. So that would be my only position, or that would be my only tip for you right now. Caleb, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're feeling a little bit weak about these wide receivers for sure. Knowing that Keenan Allen's potential hammy injuries and soft tissues injuries. So like kind of what Brandon said, Brandon said, if we're able to package someone like a Debo, like in one of these running backs for an upgrade, I just don't know, like when we're talking value wise, especially this early in the redraft cycle, like how extra, you can do. And yeah, shout out to Prime, please sponsor this channel. We'll take it.
Yeah, so I think Brandon says look at all the RBs in terms of usage and go get one of their backs. Hunter says any running backs that you recommend. It's going to be tough for me to recommend any without seeing your waiver wires, but I would say if I'm just looking at this mock that we just did, potentially a Tyler Algier. If something happens to Bijan, Tyler Algier can be good right away. Elijah Mitchell, potentially I'm trying to think, a Zamir White. If Josh Jacobs holds out because of this contract situation, or Josh Jacobs gets injured, a Zamir White could be the running back one in Las Vegas right away. Maybe an Eric Gray if Saquon decides to hold out. A Jalen Warren for Najee. There's a couple guys, man. You can really, I would just look across and say, which of these RB1s do I feel shaky about? Who could potentially, miss some time? Who has some injury history? Look at those things and then kind of look at the backups. But I think the ones I listed, I think Zamir White's my favorite pickup if he's on your waiver wire.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with all that. I think my favorite handcuff running back right now, of course, is Samaje Perine. I know we already hit on it, but I'm sure he was already drafted. So hard to recommend, but on with Andrew on everything that he said.
All right. And maybe a really sneaky ad, just due to age and previous injury history, is maybe add a Keontae Ingram in Arizona, because James Conner has a history of injuries and he's a little bit older for running backs. And if they end up tanking, if Conner goes down and Kyler's not playing, they're going to end up just throwing the season, I feel like. And they might just run Keontae Ingram into the ground, which would be awesome. Cause I think Ingram's pretty talented.
Yeah. It would be like what the Colts did last season with Zach Moss, except Keontae Ingram's actually good. So
yeah,
we'd be talking about a guy that could get, 15, 18 touches a game, but instead of 2 yards a carry, he's getting, 3.5, which isn't great, but still better than what you'd be getting off anybody else off waivers. So I like that pickup.
Exactly. All right. Well, that is what we have for you guys today. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed the Mock Draft Mayhem. I will say, look, the point of this exercise is an exaggerated exercise on being able to adapt and make changes during a mock draft when things aren't going your way. Obviously, your league mates are not going to be making your picks for you. Obviously, they're not going to be telling you cannot have a guy on your roster. But it's a fun exercise. It's just fun. It's entertaining, man. I enjoyed it. But at the end of the day, I do. And Mr. Bowtie says, look at free agents too. Hunt, Zeke, Lenny. I agree with all those because they could sign as free agents somewhere. But if you guys haven't, I'm going to promote it one more time. Make sure you guys go in. Make sure you get into that Discord, because in the Discord, we are giving away a free signed NFL jersey mystery box. The only things that you have to do to enter this giveaway is be a member of our Discord, which, like I said, is free to join, and then be subscribed to this channel. If you do those two things for me, we will be able to give this jersey away we are getting really close to the giveaway date now, guys. We're about 12 days out, 11 days out from giving this jersey away. So you have a little bit of time left, but not much. Go in there, enter, and win this signed NFL jersey. And who knows, what are we... Maybe it's a signed Kadarius Toney. I don't know. If that was the jersey for me, I'd throw it away. But at the end of the day, that is what I have for you guys. Caleb, thank you so much. Where can they find you at one more time, and we'll get out of here?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Appreciate being here, Andrew. Always enjoy this channel. Enjoy this community. Being in the Discord's great. So if you aren't in that Discord, highly recommend. So you can find me at Caleb Niemi on YouTube, put out fantasy football, dynasty fantasy football content, and then also on Twitter at Niemi Caleb. It's been a pleasure, Andrew.
All right. That's all I have for you guys today. We will see you on the next episode. Peace out.